Hey everybody, this is Jordan Rudess from Dream Theater, and you are watching CMS TV.
It is CHRIS Akin Presents, and I, of course, am Chris Akin, and always a lot of buzz around this guy and his band Dream Theater. Certainly we know all about that, but as we as fans patiently wait for new Dream Theater that's very highly awaited, this guy's decided to give us something to hold us over. He has a brand new solo release called Permission to Fly, and here to talk all about it is a guy that's been called the greatest keyboard player ever, Mr. Jordan Rudess. Jordan, how are you, man?
All right, thanks for the nice introduction. Yeah, it's been a busy time over here creating lots of stuff, that's for sure.
I was going to say that for you, it's almost a weird time, I guess, to see you putting out a solo record with so much going on in the Dream Theater camp. So before we get into Permission to Fly, why don't we start there? Why don't you catch people up on your last, 6 or 7 months, which I'm assuming have been very chaotic.
Well, yeah, it's been a really, really super busy time. So, if we start with Dream Theater and go back to Permission to Fly, that's fine. So, spent a couple of months in the studio writing music with the guys, and of course, we welcomed back Mike Portnoy to the fold, which was a beautiful thing. Very emotional. Felt it made us feel kind of like complete and like here we are again. Like,
Right.
the idea of time is just so funny because when Mike walked in and we started, it was as if we hadn't missed a beat, and it was just such a great feeling. I mean, we got right into it. We didn't waste any time. He he is in a great spot where he was just really excited to come and join us very respectfully, because, the reality is that there have been a lot of years that have passed.
Sure.
But our bigger reality to the whole thing is that, we're welcoming back this guy that has so much to offer, that loves Dream Theater, that's passionate, that is able to do so many things so well that, it's all positive. It really is. It's all great. And I think that the fans and all the listeners will feel that, will hear that, will see that in what we're creating.
Sure. Let me just ask you this, and then we will move on to it, because I do not want to turn this into an all Dream Theater thing. But
Sure.
musically speaking, is it closer? Where is this new music? Without telling us anything really about it, where does this music
Sure.
fit in? Is it images and words? Is it black clouds? Is it somewhere where you guys without Mike have been? Because you obviously had the Grammy win, so you had the most
Sure.
kind of success. Where does this musically fit in as you see it?
Well, let's put it this way. Like, I think that there's this undeniable, almost unexplainable or inexplainable, whatever the word is,
Right.
type of thing that happens with drummers. Like, we survived beautifully in the 13 years that Mike Portnoy was not there. Mike Mangini was a supreme drummer, just incredible. Um, and that said, all the albums with Portnoy, all the albums Mangini, they have different flavors because there's something about the backbeat, if you will, of a band and the drummer that just gives an energy to the whole thing. And a lot of people speak of that. It's kind of hard to pin down, but you really notice it. Like on this new album, I'm like, oh, I listen to it and I go, okay, I feel the Portnoy energy back
Right.
there. I would say, what I'm hearing personally is like classic kind of Dream Theater. Whatever that, let's just say whatever that means to anybody that's listening, you'll have to wait and see. But it just feels like, think of it this way. The core band is back together again. It's classic Dream Theater. I also like to point out that, we are a bunch of guys that we take what we do very, very seriously. We put every ounce, every bit of effort, energy into everything we do. We care so much about it, each and every one of us. The other day, I was talking to John Petrucci in the studio when I was doing my keyboard parts. And we were like really deep and working really hard and spending long hours and just getting things, to where we feel they're really, really right. And I said to John, John, like, what? Look at what we're doing. We're here late. We're working like crazy. Like, why? we could have been making pop music. Like, what? Why are we doing this? Just to get like to really understand, because a lot of people don't put the kind of effort, I guess, especially these days when I don't know, there tends to be a different kind of work ethic around where maybe we're kind of like old school in that way. But to produce a product, to make something that's going to last, that is going to be shared with a large number of people, it's just going to live on, in a way forever, that to us is a really serious thing. And as artists, we're trying to make a statement. And back to the to the Portnoy part of it, which
Mhm.
is that one of the beautiful things is Mike has brought with him all his incredible skills. He's not a guy who just plays the drums really well. He also understands this business. I always like to say that he's got kind of like a film director's mentality. He's looking at everything from a conceptual point of view, and he has skills that the rest of us don't. I mean, yes, we survived fine. We did really well. We won a Grammy and all that, but there's a magic there that we now have back.
Right.
It's cool. It's really cool. We're super excited. The album's coming along really well. I finished all my keyboard parts. Really pleased with them. Got some really beefy, cool tones, and there was a great piano in the studio, which just rocked when I needed it to. It was really melodic when I needed it to. The drums sound amazing. Petrucci's solos are, I don't know, every album he just seems to outdo himself with all that. The bass sounds great. I mean, Jimmy T, our engineer, is it's incredible just watching him work.
Right.
So the team is in a good place. James is doing his vocals pretty much as we speak, and I got a little taste of that, and they sound great. So yeah, it's in a good spot.
Very good.
Everything is happy.
Well, and for fans that are dying for it, that you've given them plenty of music with the new release to hold them over. Permission to Fly. If you're a Dream Theater fan, there's no way you can't like it. I'll say that instantly. But it's not the same, and I think that's probably on purpose from you. Maybe not, but I mean, the elements are there, but you certainly kind of explore a. I'm going to say you explore a different kind of chaos than Dream Theater does.
Yeah.
So why don't we talk a little bit about that? Tell us a little bit about Permission to Fly, as it came out of your hands and your head and got recorded.
Yeah, so the solo album thing is very important to me, and I'm sure, as you know, I do a lot of different kind of things in my solo world, not
Mm-hmm.
only musical things, but also technical things. I'm involved in technology. I work with the visual world and a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of artistic statements that are important for me to get out in many ways, emotionally, creatively, just, it's great that God, if you will, invented solo albums because Dream Theater is. I'm so lucky to be in a group with all these amazing players, these great guys, but also I have a lot to say personally. So, and the reason that it sounds different than Dream Theater in many ways is because when I'm sitting there by myself in front of my speakers, in front of my computer with my keyboard, I'm immersed in Planet Jordan. It's all
Right.
about my influences. I don't have to fit into any like particular style that people are expecting necessarily. It's great, and I'm sitting there also in my solo world with a full palette of like every sound color that you could possibly imagine, from spacey effects to orchestral effects to choirs, to brass, to like every keyboard sound in the world. I mean, think about it. It's, 2024, and the world of sound and keyboards and technology is incredible. Like if you
Right.
can imagine the sound, basically I can kind of like find it, create it, manipulate it, do it. So that's my kind of like solo space where I'm trying to create music that comes from my heart and my emotions, but to take the listener on a journey, and this is something that is, I think, people are not like generally as a population going on these music journeys as they used to. But guys like me, like a guy like Steven Wilson, we're like determined to say, you know what? The journey is really important. It's a great place to be. If you can put yourself in that mindset, if you can settle down, throw on some headphones and go for the ride, we are offering that experience. Put down your phone and your
Right.
Instagram and your TikTok for a second and just go for the ride of a musician's journey.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the spirit behind this album. It's
Sure.
a follow up, if you will, to albums like Wired for Madness or Rhythm of Time or Feeding the Wheel. But the one really important thing that I wanted to do differently about this album is I wanted it to be more kind of like vocal. I want because I listen to music that has a lot of singing in it, and
Hmm.
that means something to me. And a lot of the music that I've rock prog stuff that I've created is more about just kind of wild, crazy prog stuff. And I was like, okay, I definitely want to do that because that's part of who I am.
Sure.
But I also love music and wanted to present music that was a little bit more like um, easier to absorb,
Right.
that had just beautiful melodies that were vocal. So I think I found a really, really good balance and a really good team also to present that for this album. And also, this album is on Inside Out Sony, which means a lot to me because it's kind of like my home turf, the same record label that Dream Theater is with. And I wanted to create something really special for this, for this experience.
Right on.
So, yeah, man.
Definitely. Well, let me ask you this. So I want to go back to the vocals. I
Yeah.
read through and I read that your daughter wrote all the vocals, which I imagine that's a proud papa moment, but at the same time, it's probably quite scary to open your I've got kids too, and I
Yeah.
don't want the world that hears me do this criticizing my kids over it either.
Right.
There's the double-edged sword to that. So how did you come to having her work with you, and did you worry about any of the backlash that could come potentially from
Sure.
that?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so there's definitely a lot to say about that. For one, I look at it as though, like, my daughter Ari has been involved in my musical journey since the day that she was born. Not
Okay.
only involved in it, but almost like being like trained, if you will. Like we were working on like odd meters and rhythms on her way to like kindergarten. So if anybody, I mean, she can like, figure out this is in seven. Oh, that's in 4/4, and then it goes to five, and she knows. She just has it in her blood because she lives with me and she loves music. This is a part of it. But besides that kind of like ingrained feeling for music and for my music and my world, she's also a linguist.
Okay.
So she studied English in school, and she excelled in it, and she actually speaks Italian, and she speaks French, and
Wow.
she's just great with language. So when I was thinking about this album, the fact that I wanted more vocals, I was thinking, you know what? I like writing words, and I've written lyrics before. I don't get to do that in Dream Theater, but I, of course, can do that on my own. I was considering doing that. But then, you know what? There's a reality there. And the reality is that I like words that just sound really good. If I listen to lyrics and all of a sudden there's a word that doesn't fit the music, that catches my attention and that really bothers me, whatever it means.
Right.
So my concern is that the lyrics should sound good with the music. But I wanted it for this album to have that, but I also wanted it to be a little deeper. So I talked to Ari about that, and I felt like if there's one person in my world that could really provide that, it was her.
Okay.
So that's how that came about. And as far as any like backlash, in the in the Dream Theater universe, you can't please everybody all the
Sure.
time. If people are very vocal, they feel the power behind their computer, they'll say whatever the hell they want. It can be insulting, whatever it is. And I'm kind of used to that. And she sees that too. She knows that there's a reality there. So but that doesn't stop us from wanting to create what we did. So I'm a very proud papa in that way. I feel like the words turned out beautifully. I love the stories, the meaning, and I think that Joe Payne did an incredible job of singing everything as well.
Right on. And I wanted to ask you about Joe Payne. What was it that he offered that led you to work with him? Is it sound of his voice? Is it the way he connects with you? What is it that you and him working together? Why does that fit? I guess.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're asking me that because when I decided to do like a album that had a lot of vocals on it, I was kind of presented with some possibilities of people who I know that the record company might have mentioned, different folks, very talented, and I was looking at all these possibilities, and I got to the point where I was like, wow, like some of these guys, they have great voices, they're really talented, but I don't know. Like was really not totally comfortable with anything for a long time. And I realized the reason for that was that, first of all, I'm really sensitive, as many of us are, to the sound of people's voices, to their whatever personality comes through in their voice. And I really just wanted to find a voice that I felt like was a voice that could kind of like join with my musicality and present the message in a way that as if it was me singing.
Okay.
So not timbrally, but just musically. So at one day I was talking to Roy from Prague Report, and he mentioned this guy who goes by the name of that Joe Payne, and I didn't know who he was at all, really.
Okay.
And then because Roy had really nice things to say about his voice, I went and listened to it, and I thought, wow, this is a beautiful, beautiful voice. I should talk to him. So Roy arranged a call. And make a long story short, I think Joe was thinking at first that we were talking because maybe I would play, the possibility of me playing on his album.
Okay.
But it turned around because his album was basically done. And so I asked him at one point, I said, hey man, like, would you be interested to sing on my album that I'm creating? And he was really into it. And, from that point, we started to work together. And it was fantastic because, first of all, he's a lovely guy. Second of all, he's very, very talented musically. He's educated musically. I would send him my ideas for the melody lines and the words, and he would just take it and kind of like run with it. I didn't have to be sitting there like supervising, like helping him like find every harmony. He just like knew, and he would present like vocal harmonies to me,
Sure.
and it was really cool to work with somebody like that. And
Did did
yeah, it's
his
great.
did his influence actually change the way you envisioned any of the music?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. The things he did, like harmonically, even like with the vocal arrangements, where maybe I would think of just something like, okay, just do it in thirds or whatever, do it in sixths. But he like did this vocal arranging thing. I was like, oh my God, that's really, really cool. Like that's not coming from my head, that's coming from yours. And thank you, because I feel like that kind of thing all of a sudden I felt like, wow, it's like I have a group here. This is not
Right.
just all me. This is like I'm getting some like magic from that Joe Payne, and we're adding it to the mix and making the whole thing larger than if it was just a Jordan thing, which was, really, really cool.
Sure. Now, I know as somebody that follows you on in your journey, so to speak, I know you basically taught yourself to be a guitar player in the last year or so. Did you take that skill on this record, and do you play any guitar on this?
Yeah, I played a couple of solos on this album,
Okay.
actually, which was pretty brave, I think. I've been really focusing on the guitar the last few years, and it's really been a serious hobby. But hey, I had my guitar in the studio. I was like, I think I'll play a little bit on this thing. So, so yeah, I played some solos. There's one that people have heard already, but I didn't put myself playing guitar on video. I think I was a little bit shy, but it was on this song, "The Alchemist," that
Right.
came out on video. So yeah, I did that, but I also enlisted a really great guitar player to do like most of the rhythm parts and stuff like that. What's interesting is that in my sonic world that I was talking about, I mean, guitar sounds are part of that. So I would put down guitar sounds on the album. It's at a certain point I was talking to my friend Steve Dadayan, who's the guitarist, and he was like, Jordan, he's like, why don't I let me have one of these songs, and I'll take everything you did guitar like from the keyboard and replace it and just play the guitar. I was like, sure, give it a try. I wasn't totally sure how it would turn out, or if I'd like it much more or whatever. But he took it, and I got it back. I was like, oh my God, Steve, this is freaking awesome. It's great. So he was like, yeah, throw me anything. Throw me all the stuff, any guitar sounds that you did, and I'll put the guitar, the real guitar down. I was like, okay, fantastic. So that was great. I also had a young Chilean guitar player whose name is Bastian Martinez, who is an incredible young virtuoso. Do a couple of solos on the album. Into the Lair features a back and forth thing between the two of us. And then he also played on Embers, which was originally released through this technology called Moises, which is a great
Right.
app that a lot of musicians know that lets you do this track separation. Anyway, a short sentence about that is we decided to release the very first song through that platform and let people kind of like take out a part and put their own
Sure.
part in. So Bastian did the solo on Embers. It was really, really cool. And last but certainly not least in the band was Darby Todd, who played the drums on the album. Darby, I met in the Dream Sonic tour that we did, Dream Theater, Devin Townsend, Animals as Leaders. Darby and I became fast friends, really connected. And when it came time to figure out who was going to play on my album, I needed to find somebody who was an amazing drummer, but also somebody who was very brave and willing to, kind of go for the Jordan Rudess ride of crazy rhythms and
Right.
changes. And Darby wasn't scared at all. And he took the project happily and he recorded it all at home in the UK and just delivered the goods. We went back a little bit, but he really plugged into my world of music quickly and just did a fantastic job.
Which, for people that haven't heard the record yet, hearing that is one thing, but when you hear the record and you hear how crazy it is, that's a whole nother thing to say that they plugged into your musical world. Because
Yeah.
that's tough. I can't imagine doing that on any instrument.
Well, he was great. I mean, he told me that people call him for the hard stuff. So yeah, that's
Right
how it
on.
happened.
Well, Jordan, last question before we wrap it up. Obviously you're getting ready to be very busy. I'm sure the Dream Theater part of your world is going to keep you very busy for probably all of 2025, I'm assuming.
Right.
With that said, are you going to have any opportunities to, even if it's a gig or two gigs here or there, be able to present Permission to Fly as in the live setting?
I don't know that I'm going to even have time to breathe. Like this is we're looking at an incredible tour coming up. Incredible in terms of like the fact that we're going to be going to every corner of the earth. Incredible to the fact that like fans are already, buying tickets like crazy for these things, and we are going to be really, really busy. We did all get together actually on the Prague cruise, which was great. We had that. I would love to do it again with these guys, and one day I think we will. I just can't like wrap my head around like when, because as you can imagine, this summer is all spent like at this point just preparing for this massive tour that's coming.
Right on. Well, I know fans can't wait for that, and they should be anxious to get the new release from you, Permission to Fly. What's the date on the release for it?
We're going to release it on September 6th.
Okay, so we still got
which I like your perspective, because this is definitely going to give people something to really sink their teeth into and enjoy while they're waiting for the Dream Theater album. I think the timing is really perfect to not really like interfere, if you will, with the Dream Theater release and give some space between the two things. But I'm super excited to get it out there. I think it's probably one of my best works, and also to have worked with Joe Payne and Darby and Steve Dadayan and Bastian Martinez. Really proud of it, and excited.
Right on. Now, Jordan, where's the best place that we could send people to go to actually buy the product? Because we tell everybody it's okay to stream, but it's better to buy. So where should we tell them?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can go to the Inside Out website and you can pre-order it, probably like now. I think pre-order is definitely up there. So I think that's the way to go.
All right. Well, one more time, the album is called Permission to Fly. It is Jordan Rudess. And of course, you Dream Theater people, just keep waiting. It's coming. Honest. and Jordan.
The Classic Metal Show now has all of our videos on Spotify. Simply look up and subscribe to the CMS network on Spotify, and you'll get the audio and video podcasts each day from The Classic Metal Show. It's never been easier to listen to Mealy and Chris, so simply open Spotify, subscribe to the CMS network, and enjoy The Classic Metal Show every single day. Hail and kill.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Chris Akin from The Classic Metal Show, The Seth Williams Show, every other show in the world. Chris Akin Presents. Can't remember the one with my own name in it. But I know what I do remember. This book right here, And Other Things I Should Not Say. That's right. This is the book you want to buy from me, especially you CMS people that like a lot of my dirtier stories. This is the one. This is the one that has all of the stories about my running around in the military, especially in Korea. It's filthy, folks. I'm not going to tell you that it's a biblical prophecy. It is anything but. It is a dirty book, but it has a lot of stories that I really shouldn't say, hence the title. But it's a great book. It's a fun read. I encourage you to pick it up and go over to Amazon and get it. Amazon, just look up my name or And Other Things You Should Not Say. And if you don't want to get it there, you can get it over at chrisakin.net. It's there as well. So pick it up today. And Other Things I Should Not Say. It is the latest book by me, Chris Akin. And read it and let